Today I want to talk about Sam Pittman in Arkansas and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time today. I want to talk about Sam Pittman's Arkansas because I believe that Sam Pittman should at least be acknowledged as a head coach of the year candidate. I understand it's probably going to go to the coach that wins the national championship. Nick Saban far and away put together the best season of anybody in college football. The consensus number one team is in Tuscaloosa. We also know that Nick Saban's team is averaging 49.7 points per game. He has 3 Heisman finalists. All 3 finished top 5 in the voting. For the first time, that's the first time that has happened since 1946. And if Devontae Smith and Mac Jones go 1-2 in the Heisman voting, they will be the first pair of teammates to perform that feat since Glenn Davis and Doc Blanchard in 1945 for Army. And that Army team is considered one of the best of all time. This Alabama team could go down as one of the best of all time, depending on how badly they beat Notre Dame and how well they look in the national championship. There's also Coastal Carolina and Jamie Chadwell. They're undefeated. I understand the Chanticleers have put together an outstanding season. I think that Jamie Chadwell is going to win Coach of the Year awards. I just don't know if it's going to be the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year award, which is the one that I think is the most prestigious, though any Coach of the Year award is awesome, right? We also know that Nick Saban is the SEC Coach of the Year. So we'll get to that in just a second. Add in there what Luke Fickell has been able to do at Cincinnati. They have an opportunity to put together an undefeated season for themselves with a win against Georgia in the Peach Bowl. And then San Jose State going 7-0 in a pandemic, starting the season late, getting games in, win the Mountain West Championship. They're amazing. But what Sam Pittman was able to do this year, I think is remarkable when you take into account all the things that go on around the season. One of the things I think we're bad at in college football is appreciating the circumstances for which games were won or lost in a given time or a given year. Take the 60s, for instance, where you had the Civil Rights Movement, Vietnam War, and no real way to crown national champions, and even having like 3 dudes or 3 teams that could have been national champs in 1966 with Notre Dame and Michigan State going 10-0-1. They tied their last game of the season, and then Alabama going 11-0. Nobody was able to really say who was the national champ then. I look at what this year has brought from Black Lives Matter with the murder of George Floyd, the murder of Breonna Taylor, and how players have taken on raising their voices for the things that they believe and standing for themselves and standing for their race. Sam Pittman, among others, stood with his players and was standing with his players from the jump. And this is just months after the man broke down crying because it was so moving to him to be the head coach at the University of Arkansas. He brings in guys that I really respect in coaching. Kendall Briles, Barry Odom, Brad Davis, hot sauce for those of y'all that know from Oklahoma. And he starts to recruit, and he's recruiting heavily what I call my kids affectionately, the kids from Green Country, the kids from the Tulsa metro area stand up. AJ Green among them is going to Arkansas. Miles Flesher out of Broken Arrow is at Arkansas. But they also were laden with the toughest schedule, I think, in the history of the sport when you look at what they had to do. And I just want to go through this so that we all get an appreciation for what it is at Arkansas. So when the schedule was announced, they had number 4 Georgia. They had a top 25 Mississippi State. They have a top 25 Auburn, a top 25 Texas A&M, a top 25 Florida, and number 1 Alabama, all with LSU coming off of a national championship. Missouri and Eli Drinkwitz ended up being good. And then take into account Ole Miss putting up 48 and 647 yards on Alabama this year. Tennessee was the only one that really played about the way we expected them to play. Texas A&M was better than I thought they would be. There's not an easy game on the Arkansas schedule. Not at all. And I thought that if they won even a game, that was going to be a win for them. And not only did they win a game, they were 3-3 by November, which is so remarkable, right? Now, Mississippi State didn't end up being as good as many people thought they were, but that was a top 25 team when they played them, and they won that game 21-14. The Auburn game, they got shafted in. Like, I sincerely believe that that should be their fourth win, and they should be staring at 4-5 instead of 3-6 going into their bowl game against Texas Christian. Bo Nix fumbled the football. Referees blew the call. And that was going to be an upset win and the second such for Arkansas this season. Felipe Franks coming with 1 year of eligibility, right? Not knowing that you're going to have that year back. He's going to go and play professional football. But he didn't really have time to get into the system. Kendall Browse didn't have time to help guys get to know the system. Now you got KJ Jefferson and Malik Hornsby in a for real battle to see who wins the quarterback derby going into 21. You have Myron Cunningham coming back. You have an outstanding defense that is returning, and Barry Odom doing an outstanding job in getting them ready to play. You had great linebacker play, Grant Morgan and Bumper Poole. Like, golly, you have NFL dudes over there. And you got to transfer in from Clemson. You are set up to be good. And I've said that about Arkansas from the jump. Been buying all the Arkansas stock I could buy, dating back to the Sam Pittman hire. He knows how to recruit. It matters greatly to him. You know they're going to be well coached on the offensive line because that is what he does. And you know that the offense is going to hum because Kendall Browse knows how to run that veer and shoot. And that veer and shoot is so much fun to watch when it's going well. They're going to take the top off of defenses. They're going to run the ball well. And you're going to have a lot of fun with them. But just winning those 3 games for Arkansas, I think, is a tremendous victory in 2020. And if you're paying attention to how teams are being built and how programs become who they become, you're paying attention to what Sam Pittman is building at Arkansas. And I look around the country and I'm paying attention to who's getting better and who's not because that's my job, right? That's what I do. I'm also really interested to see what Shane Beamer is able to do at South Carolina because I think he can have the same sort of year next year. Now, their recruiting is in the gutter, and he's going to have to go into the transfer portal to go get some guys. But so is Sam Pittman. Difference is everybody wants to play for Sam Pittman. Everybody's pulling in the right direction for Sam Pittman. His staff is well paid. He is well paid, and Arkansas has a thirst to win. And I believe college football is so much more fun when Arkansas is good. That SEC West is awesome, right? From Alabama to Texas A&M to Ole Miss. LSU's going to get back. They had a bad year. I called 5 losses. They had 5 losses. They're going through some real struggles, both with blowing up their staff and NCAA sanctions that are self-enforced right now. We'll see what the NCAA has to say about that later. But you're also looking at what Lane Kiffin is building at Ole Miss. It's going to be a good time, right? I'm really excited to see what this turns out to be. Auburn with Brian Harsin as well. But Sam Pittman would get a vote from me to be Coach of the Year just because of how he's been able to get through the entire year, not just the season. All right, that is it for me. Doses.